Welcome to Butcher Block Horror Podcast, where we exhume horror movies from the past and cut into what makes them so delectable. I'm Kane.
I'm JD.
And I am Joe.
And today we're going to be throwing Dead Alive / Brain Dead onto the slab and carving up our favorite portions to force feed to you, our unwitting victims.
Delicious.
If you enjoy the taste of these feasts of fright, then give us a like and subscribe. Be sure to click the bell. Consider following us on Twitter and Instagram.
Follow us.
So, that was an experience.
Another very moist movie that you
Yes.
asked me to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of liquid
A lot of goo.
in the movie.
Bodily fluids are
Yeah.
plentiful. Bountiful bodily fluids.
A lot of chunks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Granules, morsels, bits,
Yeah.
parts.
It's a chopping block, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
The innards become outards in the flash of something that flashes.
Yeah. Yeah, so, the first time I watched that movie, I think I was mentioning it to you guys earlier, was I watched that movie at a kind of a birthday gathering for my best bud. And
That's an awesome
yeah.
featurette for a party.
Yeah. And the next morning I got up really early and had my mom take me down to get donuts. And I just got a dozen custard donuts so that when the rest of the boys woke up, that's what they had for breakfast was some delicious custard donuts.
Yep, some confectionery goodness filled with fucking slime from the movie. That's enough to turn your stomach.
Yeah. Almost certainly a similar consistency.
Yeah. That was
Delicious.
Yeah, custard was a sheer motif in that film. There was plenty of substances that closely resembled custard.
Including custard, but above custard were so many other things I could name that it would probably fill the full hour of this podcast. There were so many substances. Yeah. A lot of people juice.
So, I mean, what's the basis of the story? Give us a general overview here.
Like a poacher or whatever you would call that fellow who was trying to hunt down, what did you call this type of rat again? What was it? A Sumatran giant
monkey rat? Some shit like that.
Giant
It's a rat
monkey.
monkey. It's
Rat
a
monkey.
Sumatran
Rat
monkey. Okay, scratch that, reverse it. All
Between the three of us, we'll figure it out.
right. We're capable. We're competent. We'll get it done. So anyway, yeah, this monkey rat is basically being
Well, no. Give us like a brief overview of the synopsis, and then later we'll kind of dive into more of the bits and pieces of it.
Well, basically, this grotesque beast is responsible for a zombie outbreak, and it just sort of runs the entire gambit of everything disgusting in any horror film ever made.
Dude, you are fucking
an overbearing
right.
mother, yeah.
Very Norma Bates.
Very Norman Bates-esque lead character, overbearing mother, has a love interest. So this horror film has a little bit of everything. You know, there's a little romance, a little gruesome gore, and a hell of a lot of fake blood. I believe 300 liters.
Wow.
300 liters of fake blood.
Now, does that factor in pastes, gels, oozes, and goos and slimes?
Just blood. That's
just the liquid blood.
Just a liquid.
Yeah, some of those substances, I'd be real interested in exactly what the composition of those was.
You know, I would say that the kind of weirdness of this film is the fact that, as JD said, it kind of covers this broad terrain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you've got, you know, daddy mommy issues, like similar to Norma and Norman Bates of Psycho territory. Sure. You've got some kind of hoodoo, you know, witchcraft type stuff in there, which that's kind of all over the place. Yeah, because there's tarot cards, but there's a
talisman.
Yeah, there's a talisman, but then there's also like a Catholic priest that lays some smackdown.
He kicks ass for the Lord.
He does. And there's like the 50s toughs
Yeah.
Because we find out
hoodlums.
during the funeral scene or whatever, when he comes back to Mama's grave, like we find out this movie is supposed to be taking place in like 1957.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And all the props suggest that, old cars and, just a lot of the clothing sort of pointed toward that.
Yeah, some of the clothing. There's also the scene at the zoo where there's just a smorgasbord of fucking styles.
They just couldn't control that set, so it was just people wandering around.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my guess.
Oh, to answer the kind of implied question, apparently that family was Spanish Romani.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I'm still to this day, this is one of my all-time favorite horror movies, and the amount of gore in this film is, just unparalleled. And, well, it's Peter Jackson's third feature film, and it's known to be part of his splatter period, which is a very appropriate and fitting title for this to sort of be packed into.
Oh my God, yes. The amount of severed body parts, oozing, gushing, pussing.
Absolutely.
But it's just a fucking gross display of
There's a part of
abuse
me,
a corpse.
given Peter Jackson's skill with gore, that wishes that the fights in Lord of the Rings had looked like that.
Right?
just like organs and gore.
That could have been...
I feel like that's a missed opportunity.
I agree. Like, look, motherfuckers, you nerds want to see the horrors of war? Here you go.
This is their window. This is their view into like what battle could look like. We got to show them somehow.
Just elves trying to hold in their intestines.
Yep. So one of the interesting things I thought about this film was that it had two release dates. One in New Zealand, which the film was mostly, shot in New Zealand, and in 1992. And the other release date, it was in the United States in 1993. And so most of the world knows this film as Brain Dead. And here in the States, we call it Dead Alive. And I couldn't find a really great reason for that, but there is another movie called Brain Dead.
It's a 1990 psychological horror film.
Right.
Starring Bill Pullman, Bill Paxton, Bud Cort, and George Kennedy.
Okay.
So my guess is that's probably why Peter Jackson's Brain Dead was not allowed to be called Brain Dead in the U.S.
Yeah, so they went with Dead Alive, which is also an excellent title. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan.
I actually prefer Dead Alive.
I do
just
too.
because of how absurd the name is.
Catches your ears a little more.
It really does. It really
and I
does.
think it's more fitting because of the numerous zombies. And in addition to the zombies taking action, even the body parts of the zombies seem to remain animated. I mean, there were attacks, brutal attacks from innards, stomachs, intestines.
I think we should we should focus on this for just a second, because one of the broad kind of brushes that was used in this film was the multiple types of zombies that are kind of called forth. Because you've got the unkillable, because they're basically every part of their body is reanimated. Every cell
coming to fucking get you. Everything was coming to fucking get you.
And so I don't know. I mean, Return of the Living Dead is that those zombies, all of them is resurrected, and headshots don't kill them.
Mm-hmm.
They were also spirited.
At times they were, yes.
Yeah.
But they also had the Romero slow horde mentality of zombies as well.
Right.
But then I do think that it had its own kind of flair in the sense that the zombies appeared to be able to feel pain.
Mm-hmm.
The zombies also seem to be able to have some emotional attachments.
That baby thought everything was funny.
It did.
I was about to add that a lot of these zombies had a sense of humor, and they had, different senses operating.
Right. Like what's the one zombie's name? The 50s looking zombie, the 50s tough. What was his name?
The uncle?
No.
Oh, Void.
Void. Yes. So Void, that first scene where he's feeding them eggs and tranquilizers.
Mm-hmm. Which is the breakfast of champions.
It is the breakfast of champions, but he's feeding them that. And Void isn't using his silverware. And Lionel's like, here, use a spoon, Void, use a spoon. Which, when did he take the time to get that fucking dude's name? Did he check? There's no way that dude's ID said Void.
Maybe it seemed like a small town. Maybe he just knew him as a local tough.
Yeah, that's a good
the
possibility.
hoodlums, in your community, who you got to look out for. That actor's name was Jed Brophy, by the way.
They went to school together.
Yeah, right.
Nice. But he shoves the spoon all the way out the back of his head, and he can't.
It was a little too aggressive of a move.
It was. And Mother starts eating his food, and he starts acting like a child that is missing out on something they were excited about. So those elements make it really fucking weird. It's like a very bizarre take on zombies.
And what he was sad to be missing out on was essentially a bowl of scrambled eggs topped with tranquilizers.
Yes.
So
yes. And they all seemed pretty fucking passive towards Lionel at that point. Like, as long as he was feeding them eggs and tranquilizers.
Yeah, because they could have taken him out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, maybe as they, would rot, their brain would rot and they would become less of their former self and more of this, animalistic lizard brain creature, the more putrid they became, and so then they'd become more aggressive in that.
Well, I don't know. Their aggression just seemed to be kind of on the fly.
Right. But I feel like it would gain, as they were in the movie. I mean, a few of the characters were instantly a bastard the second they became a zombie, but a few of them seemed to be kind of docile and then eventually became more horrid.
Which one was docile before it became horrid?
Well,
I mean, until she ate the dog, the mom was chill. She just sat at that dinner party and was gross.
She wasn't dead yet.
That's fair.
Yeah. She started attacking, the second she died, she attacked the nurse kind of from behind.
And she tried to eat Lionel.
That's true.
As soon as she was dead, alive. Ba-da-ba-da-ba.
That's an unloving move, though. You don't want to eat your caretakers. That's not what you do.
Well, that's just it. I mean, if you're a zombie, everything is food. Or every person is food.
So, we kind of been talking about all of the special effects we observed in those 300 liters of fake blood and whatnot. $3 million budget, okay? So even for 1992, I mean, that's a relatively small budget, for this level of...
For what we got out of it, yeah.
Right. It was just pure enjoyment on my part. I mean, I have been enjoying this movie for a hell of a long time.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, and you got to look at who's directing it.
Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, I mean, he directed it, did the screenplay.
Well, the screenplay was a collaboration between Steven Sinclair, Peter Jackson, and I believe it's Peter Jackson's partner, Fran Walsh. It was produced by Jim Booth. The main story I researched was written by Steven Sinclair.
Right.
They kind of collaborated, and then Jackson directed it. And Jackson actually had a lot to do with a lot of the special effects and a lot of the horror effects and all of that stuff. What's really wild about Peter Jackson? He's actually a knight. Isn't that strange? He was knighted. He's in this group called the New Zealand Order of Merit. Yeah.
Well, that's fucking interesting.
Right? He has a pretty cool birthday, too. October 31st, 1961.
Nice.
Wellington, New Zealand. But yeah, he was knighted in 2002. Based off of his accomplishments of film. No other reason, really.
Well, I mean, I wonder why, now that he could pretty much get almost any movie greenlit, right? Why hasn't he made a new horror movie?
Maybe he's just over it.
That was such a heavy period in his career, the splatter period, that maybe he just got it all out of his system at once. I mean, I'm convinced, if you make a movie like Brain Dead, aka Dead Alive, there's so much horror in that one movie that that's your purge. You're done now.
I have said all I need to say.
Right. He also did Bad Taste and Meet the Feebles. So,
Right.
Being his third film, that all kind of horror-ish, but this is most certainly but I would say that it's, light-spirited horror, even though it's completely gory. There is elements of comedy to it, and it's
I laughed a
strange
lot.
to say. Oh, absolutely. I mean,
I know at one point someone called it slapstick because it had a lot of Charlie Chaplin style shit in it.
Three Stooges.
But it has been referred to as a splatstick zombie comedy film.
yeah, I could see that.
I don't know if we need portmanteaus for everything. We can just call things two words. It's fine.
What do you mean?
A portmanteau where you take two parts of two separate words and combine them to make one word that means both words. I don't know if and like movies and music love doing that. And I don't know if it's necessary.
I think this one is just because it sounds good. Like I like saying it.
Okay, that's fair.
Like if I was going to make a movie, I would probably want to make it splatstick.
Sure.
I'm not saying that I would, take a lawnmower and have that be a principal weapon in the film. But I definitely think that splatstick is definitely a funny way of describing Dead Alive. I don't know that I've ever seen another movie that deserves that appropriate
almost
title.
Certainly not, yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a movie where someone was kicked in the genitals more than Lionel's Uncle Les. It's quite a trope in horror. It's for sure. Like I remember the Monster Squad, the Wolfman got kicked in the nards, but like this was repetitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really battered and beaten and bitten.
He had it all coming though. He deserved.
Yeah, he was a giant piece of shit.
He did. He was the guy with the Whoville hairdo with the many
wig.
Oozing sores on his face.
Toupee.
Yes, it was a wig.
It was a toupee, not a wig. It was a toupee.
A toupee.
Yeah.
It surely didn't stay on his head very well because that thing was out and about, and it made its rounds, and especially during the party, I feel like that was knocked off his head a handful of times.
Yeah.
But yeah. Pretty grotesque and amazing for Peter Jackson, being what most people have come to know him for, being the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy, and it's incredible that that could all come from the same person.
Right.
So interesting little thing. I'm not saying that it's connected in any way, shape, or form because this doesn't seem feasible. But Lionel's mother's name is Vera, right? Vera Farmiga was Norma Bates in the TV show Bates Hotel.
Yeah, so that
weird
might just
coincidence.
Be a coincidence. It's a weird
coincidence. Yeah, weird coincidence.
And she did a hell of like looking down at him from windows, when she was spying on him.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit I could see the overlap there. They certainly admired some Alfred Hitchcock moments, from Psycho.
Did anyone else notice
that
that Mother had a very kind of fancy British accent, whereas everyone else had, the kind of New Zealand accent?
I think she was born in Elizabeth Moody, born in England, 1939, and then she basically immigrated to New Zealand in 1957.
Okay.
She also had a role in one of the Lord of the Rings films, Lobella Sackville Baggins. So apparently she was married to some Baggins, or one of her parents were.
The Sackville Bagginses.
The Sackville Bagginses. Yeah.
They were the bad Bagginses.
They were the bad Baggins?
Yeah.
Is that like, that's what I'd refer to, like a bag that like I was carrying groceries home and it tore and like all my groceries fell onto the street. I'd be like, bad Baggins.
No.
Don't laugh. It's not funny.
No.
You didn't have to have any fear of that at all. All right.
Good thing for editing.
We got anything? Oh no, it's staying because I like I like it when those jokes.
You like
die.
Uncomfortable moments.
Well,
you always let my jokes perish in a very similar fashion, and you're very like cavalier about it thereafter.
Yeah.
You and Joe both are like our JD joke slayers. You fucking cold.
You slay the joke,
trolling,
man. We just let it die peacefully on its own. We don't.
I gotcha. Well,
I need to repeat. You kill the joke. We just let it die. We don't.
Yeah.
We don't
need to make it.
If our listeners have any input on the nature of my humor
or lack thereof,
please leave something in the comments for us. Let us know what you think about my jokes.
No, they're great.
I won't take it personally.
They're great. They're fantastic.
You should.
Well,
be very
thanks
proud.
for stroking my ego now.
All right, so is there anything noteworthy about the writing staff?
Well, we kind of mentioned that.
Well, I just was gonna say we could dig into Peter Jackson, but it's not one of those situations where the listeners are gonna be like, "Who's this random?"
Who's this
Jackson?
guy?
Yeah, they're gonna know who the fuck Peter Jackson
up with
is.
Awards.
Yeah.
Jack Peterson. What?
I mean, he's only got 3 Academy Awards, a Best Director award, a Golden Globe, 4 Saturn Awards, whatever that is, 3 BAFTAs, British Academy Film Awards for Best Direction. I mean, he's one of the least distinguished directors we've covered since we've started Butcher Block, right? I'm sure that no one knows who he is.
I've never heard of him.
Right. Precisely.
Yeah, so I figure we're probably safe to just move on to the writers of the film. We know Jackson was involved with the writing.
Sure. I don't know a whole lot about Stephen Sinclair, and Fran Walsh and Peter Jackson are married, and that's about as much as I know about them both. They all seem to be from New Zealand. They're New Zealanders.
Well, I know that Stephen Sinclair co-wrote Meet the Feebles, Brain Dead, and The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers.
Yep. And Fran, she also worked with them on Meet the Feebles and also some of the Lord of the Rings. And she shares a lot of Oscar nominations and her own Academy Awards, so they're all well decorated movie veterans. Jim Booth, also the producer, he produced Meet the Feebles and, well, obviously Brain Dead. So yeah, I don't know. Should we move on to the cast?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
So yeah, now Timothy, I believe it's Balmy or Balm. He played the main character of Lionel, and he's a New Zealand actor, born 1967. Best known for some soap opera roles. I guess you would likely need to live there to know the soap operas.
Right.
I don't know exactly anything about those roles, but anyway. Dead Alive is his big claim to fame, and then there's a film called Jack Brown Genius, which is another one that I'm completely unfamiliar with. And Paquita, the actress that played Paquita, was named Diana Penalver. She's a Spanish actress, best known for Dead Alive and also something called Year of Enlightenment. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Year of Enlightenment.
Nope.
I think so.
Yeah.
This seems to be a common thread where we have like one or two actors or whatnot in the movies that we showcase that we're like, oh yeah, we know, Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton. Like, oh yeah, we know all kinds of stuff about them. And then there's just a few people where we sort of recognize them, but that movie is the only thing they did. So,
Sure.
This movie did not star Barbara Crampton.
It did not.
Sadly.
No cameo.
No.
That's two in a row.
Yeah, we're going to have to figure something out for next week with some way to include Barbara Crampton.
Get her on the show.
Exactly. So we're looking at, as far as the character that played Lionel's mom, that was Elizabeth Moody, born in 1939 England. So yeah, she was, like, again I mentioned earlier, she was in that Lord of the Rings film, and that's about it on Elizabeth. Then there was Ian Watkin, born 1940 in New Zealand, and was known for Brain Dead and then Sleeping Dogs. And he was Uncle Les. the guy who repetitively took shots to his genitals.
That's true.
He had it coming.
Yeah, he deserved it every time.
He really did. He was quite a slouch of a human being, and just anyway. So then we had the fighting priest. That was Stuart Devine, and he was also in Meet the Feebles. So Devine was born 1951 in New Zealand, and the fighting priest, a.k.a. Father Magruder.
I kick ass for the Lord.
He most certainly did kick ass for the Lord.
I just want to see that guy in a movie.
Yeah.
So the connection in this film, that that we noticed that there were a lot of connections between actors and actresses and writing, and the staff kind of like stuck together and did a lot of things in the future after this movie and even before it. But Peter Jackson directed The Frighteners. You guys remember The Frighteners, 1996?
Yeah.
So Stuart Devine was also in The Frighteners. There was another actor, though, named Stephen Pappas, and he played the zombie version of Father Magruder.
Weird.
So they split that up. Yeah, they didn't want Stuart being zombie Magruder. So yeah, they went out and found Stephen. And then the Void that we mentioned earlier, I think I named him, but I'll name him again. Jed Brophy, born 1963 in New Zealand, and he was in something called Heavenly Gestures.
Is that Heavenly Creatures?
What is it?
Heavenly Creatures.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's right. Sorry. Heavenly Creatures. I stand corrected. Heavenly Creatures. And then he was also in Lord of the Rings and named Dwarf Nori in The Hobbit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Like, I feel like it seems like these are all people that Peter Jackson just kind of brought with him.
Yeah.
Yep. He was feeling these people as far as their skills go, and he believed in them enough to bring them along for the wild ride he went on.
Yeah, because I mean, he was in Hercules, the Legendary Journeys and stuff. So some of those New Zealand things.
Oh yeah.
He was in Xena, Warrior Princess, and Lord of the Rings. He was a fucking Nazgul. So it looks like he got kind of pulled into a lot of cool shit just because he happened to be friends with Peter Jackson. That's what I think it was.
I feel like I should be friends with Peter
I don't
Jackson.
think he'd like you.
Let's try to make friends with Peter Jackson. I feel like if he does do
I don't
another...
think he would want to be friends with us.
That's fine, but I wouldn't mind being an extra.
Maybe tweet at him.
Are we going to tweet Peter Jackson?
I think we should.
And ask him to be...
Just be like, hey, we talked about your movies. You should fly us out and we will interview you. And also,
do you think he has that kind of
films.
money? Do you think he could afford to do that? Fly the three of us around like that?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Well, it's not a question of whether or not he has the money to do it. I bet he has the money to do it.
I was being facetious.
It's a question.
Oh,
it's
okay.
a question of whether or not we deserve that kind of.
We do.
We don't.
Wonderful treatment.
No, look at this quality podcast content we're putting out about the work of Peter Jackson and how we like it, and everyone should experience it. And I think that's enough
Oh, okay.
to win his affection.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll see how that works out. Listeners, we'll keep you updated on our attempt to build some sort of relationship with Peter Jackson.
You're not going to tweet him, are you?
I'm not actually going to tweet Peter Jackson.
So, back to the cast. I've been curious who... I know the actor's name. It's Murray Keane, but they were a character named Scroat, and I couldn't figure out who Scroat was. And don't you want to know who Scroat is? If there's a listener out there,
they're a named character. Yeah,
right. So like Scroat, and that just it reminds me of so many things, but. In particular, I'm just curious. I'm just going to stop right there and just say I'm curious who that was in the film. And yeah.
All right, so here's my stab at it.
Mm-hmm.
So there was it 3 or 4 50s toughs at the cemetery, right?
Could Scroat be one of the toughs? I don't know. Is that a
that
nickname?
was my thinking?
I think Scroat is the zombie that gets his arms and legs removed. and then his head. He's actually the end of Father Magruder because he gets his legs kicked off, his arms ripped off, and then his head kicked off. It goes way up in the air, and then it lands on Father Magruder. And we all know what happens after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He got fouled up pretty hard. So yeah.
Fast for a minute there, though.
Yeah.
Can you...
So that's who I think Scroat is. I think Scroat was one of the 50s toughs.
I'm inclined to agree.
All right, that's a pretty good stab at it. I'm wondering, was the baby, the zombie baby, did it have a name, or was it just they left it unnamed? Because I wonder if maybe that could be Scroat.
No, the baby's name is Baby Selwyn.
Baby what?
Baby Selwyn.
Oh, okay. Well, what a cute name. Not.
It was,
Wasn't really a cute baby.
No. Well, when you're born with a pus oozing from your face, then, it's hard to be cute. It's hard to, connect to a baby that has pus oozing from its face immediately and laughing hysterically.
The whole film. Just laughing the whole film.
That baby thought shit was funny.
I felt like we had a similar sense of humor.
No, I mean, I believe that.
I forgot what the reason for the mother's visit was when she was still alive, but this couple comes over to the house. I believe it was...
Oh, it was the women's something welfare?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So it was Albert and Nora, I believe, Matherson, and that was played by, I believe it's Glennis Leviston and then Lewis Rowe. But anyway, Albert was the guy who was like so disappointed at the end of the meal that they were about to leave before being served pudding. And, that is really, I mean, the introduction of the movie had foul moments, but that for me was really where I think my stomach turned first.
Yeah.
Because, the mother goes and starts pushing into her bandaged wound and squirts pus into his pudding. And he's just like, just enjoying it. He was loving the pus.
Well, that's because his wife refused to make custard. So this was a rare event for him where he got to enjoy his dessert.
Right.
And he just wasn't going to let anything spoil it.
Right.
Not even some pus, some
even
festering. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Lionel's mother ate her own ear. It fell off into her bowl of pudding, which was a pretty amazing special
also
effect.
with enthusiasm.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I really thought that the character that was reading the tarot cards, that was Paquita's grandmother, she was awesome.
She was.
She wasn't in the film very, very much, but she really, I thought she was like a very convincing character of just, she was a natural mystic and following the occult and reading, these cards. But that actress's name was Davina Whitehouse. So I just wanted to make a quick note of her because I really thought her character was pretty cool. And she also offered that talisman to Paquita to give to Lionel for protection.
I wish someone would give me a talisman for protection.
I'll
check
bring
your
one
mail
over later.
Monday morning, I'm going to send you something. And it to me, I think it'll be like a talisman for you. But I'm going to keep it a secret. It'll get there.
Uh-huh.
So another awesome thing, there's so many awesome things to talk about when we're talking about Dead Alive, but one of the really cool things was the location. So, and it was a location that Peter Jackson used a few times throughout his career. He used it in this movie. The introduction took place, and they referred to it as Skull Island, but it's a location in New Zealand called the Pinnacles. Have you guys ever heard of the Pinnacles?
Is it the Punta Gira Pinnacles?
I believe so, but I just, when I looked it up, it said the Pinnacles. But it's an example of Badlands erosion, and it's just like this type of naturally occurring geological formation. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But that location was also part of the Lord of the Rings series. They went there in one of the movies.
That's way awesome.
Yeah.
It's like Peter Jackson was like, man, I have this location. I need a good spot for the Paths of the Dead. Where are we going to film that part? Man, I wish I had this kind of creepy, scary looking. Oh, I know. Hey, Fran, do you remember that? Where were we at when we shot the Skull Island scene for fucking Brain Dead?
Yeah.
All right, let's go back there.
Yeah.
I think it worked. But the indigenous people of that island were very upset when I think what it was that they understood the lack of understanding of that initial poacher, and that what he was trying to remove from that island could potentially just cause sheer terror, wreak havoc in the world. So they were not so much trying to like kill them, but more so just stop them from bringing that monkey rat away from their protection, in a sense. And it wound up in a cage. And it's another cool little, almost like a trivia tidbit. But so later on in, what year was that 2005 when Peter Jackson remade King Kong? There is a scene where Peter Jackson paid tribute to Dead Alive or Brain Dead by there was like a basement, like a crate scene, and it said Sumatran rat monkey on the cage, like it belonged in there or something. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little tidbit.
Yeah, maybe those two things take place in the same universe.
Yeah.
Maybe the rat monkey, it was misunderstood, and maybe if it had found some ice that it could have skated around on with Paquita, maybe we wouldn't have had this.
Do you think it would have became a professional hockey player?
Joined the Mighty Ducks?
No, I'm just... this is why Peter Jackson isn't going to want to talk to us. It's because King Kong was a giant pile of shit. I really hate that movie.
Well, maybe if you had been complimentary toward that awful movie, then he would have.
Look, man, I've got some scruples. All right. Did anyone actually like Peter Jackson's King Kong?
Like 10-year-olds probably did.
Jack Black was in it, right?
Yeah.
He's very likable.
He is. He's affable.
He's
got a lot of charisma
things that I enjoy. So we should talk about the special effects team in Dead Alive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's where this movie just shines on like the fucking shiny diamond of horror films that it is.
Like a crazy diamond.
It really does. There are so many scenes, but that just illustrate how like the gruesome detail of Peter Jackson's imagination. So we're looking at Steve Ingram, and he was responsible. He was like the main special effects coordinator. There was a team that worked along with him. But I would give credit to Richard Taylor, because he sort of was the overseer of the creature effects and all of the gore and a lot of the stop motion animation, because there was a good bit of that in this film. And it's one of those things that, same thing with From Beyond, when we were talking about that, just the practical effects and the prosthetics and, just animating these like real objects made this movie special in that same way.
Oh, yeah.
A lot less fuchsia light in this film. They experimented with a lot of other shades and hues of lighting.
Exactly, yeah.
So as far as horror films go, this movie definitely stepped away from the fuchsia light and went for teal.
It's still in there.
It was in there. Most certainly in
Not
there.
as much.
Yeah, it was
Not as
in there. The only real like special moment the fuchsia light had was when Uncle Les is in the basement chasing the zombie baby Selwyn, and runs into Vera in her ultimate form. And that's when we get the fuchsia light again.
Right.
But the special effects, the lighting, just all of the things combined made this movie just... It's the bar as far as gore and grotesque.
So gooey.
It was so gooey.
It really was. I think about the scene where, Lionel's mother reanimates almost immediately after she's kind of pronounced dead by this nurse. And the nurse was also what was the name, the baby's first name again?
Baby Selwyn.
Selwyn. Man, that almost kind of resembles the word Samhain, which is kind of like one of the origins of Halloween. I wonder if that was part of the thought process in naming the baby. But so anyway,
I feel like it could have been.
It's possible. It's like a word resembles another word. But so anyway, maybe my weird brain just connected it. But I think of the nurse being attacked from behind by Lionel's mother, and her fingers just sort of like ooze into her cheeks and her neck, and just like she's like shaking her. But there was a point at which her head was like ripped backwards, and you see like the grotesque hole like down into her like torso cavity, and like somebody started spooning. Was it eggs with tranquilizer all over them? Like spooning that down into the hole. Yeah. That is just a vile thing to be able to describe with, all the sculptural effects that they had to create to make that appear real. It's a hell of a lot to.
Oh yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
That was definitely good. So real quick on the Selwyn thing, I did do a quick dig.
Okay.
And there was a radio and television personality named Selwyn Toogood that was popular in New Zealand.
Oh, there we go.
So Baby Selwyn may have had some kind of connection to Selwyn Toogood.
Well, I guess so then, because there's going to be so many like little cultural nuances that will be lost on the viewers of the American release, because how would we know? Same thing when I was talking about like the soap operas and stuff that some of these people were
Exactly.
in.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome though. This is our chance to learn New Zealand culture, some aspects.
Yeah, through Dead Alive.
Through a gruesome, ghastly, gelatinously foul horror film.
Yeah. That is the case. But yeah, so let's talk about the score.
There's just one person that I really found that referred to as a music coordinator, and their name was Chris Go. And I tried to look up other things that they.
So now, what about Peter Descent?
Peter Descent. Well, if there's any information on Peter Descent that you can add along with the name Chris Go, that would help inform us more.
Okay, yeah, he some of his more famous works were with Peter Jackson and three of his early films. So the Meet the Feebles, Brain Dead, and Heavenly Creatures.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, there's not a lot of info that I'm seeing about him, but he was a New Zealand-born composer, pianist, and songwriter, and he has lived and worked in Sydney since 1981.
Oh, nice. Well, I feel like it was odd fucking music for a horror movie.
It was very chipper.
Yeah. I was having a good time.
And I think they would take that chipperness and juxtaposition, place that in juxtaposition with, very odd visuals to get this really playful feel that kind of, pushed it toward that slapsticky comedy zombie type of thing that,
Yeah, I think at one point I commented the music's just doing its own thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the music was on its own journey, right?
Yeah.
And every now and then I felt like it would cross paths with what was going on in the movie.
Right.
Decide that it wasn't comfortable there, and then it would kind of mosey on out to its own greener pastures, which kind of created its own feeling for the movie in general.
Sure.
It definitely helped to create a sense of feeling.
It definitely did have a vibe. Oh shit, there's a cast member that I think we overlooked. Peter Jackson's cameo as the Undertaker's assistant, who was getting shouted at about how his wages were going to be docked.
Because they let the embalming machine just keep going.
Yeah.
He got a nice hard slap in the face too.
He did.
I feel like this movie could easily be looked at as like almost like dreamlike. It could take root in like your subconscious mind in some strange way and almost cause you to have the type of nightmares that this movie portrays. Because there's remember the scene where he's just like the room is starting to fill up with zombies and there's blood on the floor. And have you ever had a dream where you're just like, you're trying so hard to run, but you can't? And it's not necessarily even that you're being chased, but like you just take off like you're like, and you feel like you should be moving like a bat out of hell. And yet you're just kind of stuck in place. But he's like slipping on the blood because there's so much blood on the floor that he's like almost running in place like he's on a treadmill.
I feel like there was a comedian that did a bit doing that like running in place move. Like it's in the back of my brain somewhere and I can't think of it.
It's like very physical comedy, again, lending itself to...
like Steve Martin, maybe? I don't know. It's in there somewhere.
He had some, slapstick-ish moments in his career, most certainly. He's also a hell of a banjo player. I don't know if anyone knows about Steve Martin's banjo ability.
Yeah.
Not that it has anything to do with Brain Dead, a.k.a. Dead Alive, but Steve Martin could rip up a banjo.
Yeah, hell of a banjo player.
Yeah.
All right, well, now is is there anything else information-wise about the directors, actors, effects team, score, or anything?
I have a tiny amount of trivia about the inspiration for the
movie. Let's do it. Put it out there.
Yeah. Apparently, there was a Sherlock Holmes short story.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Sorry. The Adventure of the Sussex Vampire. There's a passing reference to a ship and the giant rat of Sumatra. And Sherlock Holmes says, that's too horrifying. We don't even talk about that. And apparently throughout history, just writers have taken on that mystery and done their own thing with it. And apparently that partially inspired the rat monkey.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic tidbit.
It is. I thought it was really cool.
If it pleases you.
Absolutely.
Nice.
All right. Well, then I guess now we get to the part where we talk about our personal experience with the movie. So
sure.
We'll go ahead and start with you, Joe.
Yeah, I had seen this movie once before. I suspect I was imbibing of the devil's lettuce at that time. Completely forgot everything about it other than that was a weird horror movie. And then decades later rewatched it about an hour ago and was blown away by the amount of goo and fluid and substances. So yeah, basically this was my first time, this version of myself at least,
right,
watching this movie. But I enjoyed it. Some of the composition of like the placenta at the end, I really want to know what that was made of.
I believe
really
that
gross.
was
it was so chunky.
I believe it was a Betty Crocker cake mix.
Oh, no shit.
I just made that up.
Oh, damn it. I thought that was the real answer. I was excited.
Yeah, don't do that.
It looked like it. It really looked like it.
I can see that, yeah.
It could have been. Yeah, so many things, though. So many other things.
Sure.
So if anybody listening has any idea what the hell that placenta was made out of,
yeah, and like if you're just generally knowledgeable about practical horror effects, like because it has to be just stuff you would find around the house, like Elmer's glue and food products. If you just have a general understanding of how gooey horror movie substances are made, I'd be very interested to learn.
Yeah.
I'm imagining there to be a ton of like Elmer's glue involved.
Maybe
I could be
pudding.
wrong.
Yeah, pudding, cake mix, pancake mix, something along those lines.
Yeah.
A lot of
Paper mache
Jello
base.
products. Melted pudding pops. So,
all right, JD, you want to talk about your personal experience with the movie and then hit us with a question or comment you would like to kind of put out into the ether.
Sure, I'd be thrilled to share. I saw this movie for the first time, I think I was in high school, and it was a very pleasant experience. I was, obviously been a fan of horror films my entire life, but not until I want to say maybe I was freshly 21 years old. There was a theater in Chicago called the Vic, and they would do a night of the week. I believe it was Thursdays, either Wednesdays or Thursdays, but they would do a night of the week where they would kind of host showing films, and they'd call it the Bruin View, where they'd serve alcohol and let you watch horror movies. And I just remember the pictures of beer there were terrible. They were like really always kind of almost served warm and like a light chill, but I would say that at best it was a light chill. And right. But it would get to room temperature all too quickly. And so you'd be like drinking this like kind of like piss warm beer. It was almost like the beer that would be like at the bottom of your Solo cup at a shitty party, like off of a keg, But like the whole picture was like that from start to finish. So, you're there with your friends, and just imagine, you're like slamming a bunch of pitchers of beer, and you're taking down this fucking awesome horror film that, you're pretty excited about. And like, I just remember getting pretty shit-faced drunk watching this movie at the Vic. And it was probably one of the first times I threw up in public. I went to the bathroom, and basically like I don't even think the movie was over. I was just like, maybe it got to the part where like people started coming to the house, and like, the shit just started to hit the fan. But I was like puking pretty good for, a good 10 minutes. And I'm like, man, I remember but I do remember like looking at my puke and thinking that it sort of resembled substances we were just watching in the movie.
Oh no.
Yeah. And no blood, fortunately, but lots of green.
Well, that's good.
Lots of yellow. Good. Yeah. Lots of stuff that looked like custard. It just was an ugly scene. But I figured, I'd share it because it's a horror podcast. So
yeah.
But it was an interactive experience for me, and probably some popcorn in there too.
Undigested.
Yeah, everything was very loosely digested, but that's how vomit goes.
That's how it happens. Yeah,
that's how it happens. Any other views? I'm trying to think here. I'm scrolling.
Did anything stick out to you that made you go,
Well, there's the number of times that Uncle Les got something. It was like his penis had its own gravity. It just attracted blunt items. Other than that, I loved, Father Magruder kicking ass. I felt like his fighting style was very reminiscent of Jean-Claude Van Damme, like in the movie Bloodsport. I felt like he could just...
A lot of footwork.
Kick. He was, very strong offense. He didn't really like need defense because his offense was so strong. Like he was very much like just a striking fighter. So I would like to see, like a Father Magruder match against somebody else from another movie, but like in the octagon. You know what I mean? Like an MMA bout. Father Magruder versus somebody else. We got to review horror films. So I'm going to ask our listeners to come up with a character that they'd like to see Father Magruder take down in the octagon. Could be any fighting style. I don't know what you'd call Magruders, but that's what I want to see.
Okay. All right. Well, again, I've kind of already talked about my personal experience with the film. I've seen it dozens of times. First time that kind of stands out that I saw it was at a buddy's birthday. Me, him, and a couple other guys watched it. And in the morning, I went down and had my mom take me out to get some custard donuts and brought those back to disgust my fellow partygoers.
Yeah.
Overall, you should have gone the full 9 and injected them with pink food coloring.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, no. I was working with very little sleep.
No, I get it.
Well, you had the wherewithal to bring custard-filled donuts, so I think you did really well.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You did really well.
Yeah.
I would have been upset, but also loved you for it.
The practical effects in this movie were so well done.
So good.
That it really did gross. Even me, I was participating in this prank on the dudes that were at this party, and I was even grossed out by custard for a decent amount of time after that. For a good chunk of time after that, anytime I had homemade pudding, like banana pudding or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
I would have a hard time eating it because I would get like a Nilla wafer in my mouth with the pudding, and I would just immediately go to the scene where she eats her own ear and then spits out the earring, and I would just be done. Be like, all right, that's cool. I'm done. I'm done with pudding for the day.
Forever.
As far as, something that kind of sticks out to me, I really want to know more about Vera's ultimate form.
Oh, yeah.
Of all of the practical effects in the movie, I feel like that one looked the worst.
Right.
But also had the most moving parts.
Right.
Like
fun bags.
It looked like the face was an actual animal skull, like a horse skull or something that they had just
Well, I think she was starting to turn
on.
into that Sumatran rat monkey. I think that was kind of what they were going with for her in her form. Like she was very like, if you look at the body of that rat monkey and then you looked at her posture, I think that really is what they were trying to do.
You could be right. But I think I want to know more about, what was involved in the creation of Vera's ultimate form. Yeah. What pieces were kind of stitched together. And the fact that it was walking up the stairs, like that had to have multiple people involved with it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's just no information that's, easily accessible for us to be able to dive into.
I'm kind of surprised that there's not like a Fangoria interview where somebody talks about that prop.
Very, very little information out there on it.
That's so weird.
That costume made me, just the way you were describing it, it made me think of one of those like shitty horse costumes where like a person is like the back legs and someone else is the front legs. You can't stay in that costume throughout an entire party. Like if someone does, they need to get paid.
All right. Well, you have wasted another hour or so of your life listening to us prattle on about this awesome movie.
Hope it was worth it.
Yeah.
And I do recommend you watch it if you have not seen it. It's very, very classic.
If you watch Dead Alive, or you have watched it and just feel like talking about it, let us know what you think. We're always happy to engage people when it comes to these movies. They're important to us, and being able to kind of enjoy a community conversation about this would be pretty amazing.
Oh yeah.
You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Just send us a message. You could also just comment on the video itself. Also, we warn you against forgetting to like, follow, and subscribe.
And ring the bell.
Oh yeah.